Dave here. How are you? I have here TSO Products multifunction fence and stop set. Now there's four parts to it. There's the fence itself, there's the flip stop, and there is also the undermount support plate, as well as the two dogs that support the fence. The fences come in two different sizes. This is the 1200, which is actually only 1 meter long because it starts at 200 millimeters. The 900 millimeter fence starts at 200 millimeters as well and is only 700 millimeters long. Up to you which one you want to get. There's not a lot of difference in the cost. The dogs have a slot in the back and they're adjustable in height. So I can use a 5 millimeter hex screwdriver and loosen for them to adjust so I can raise that up and down. Not so much used for when I'm using it as a fence for docking, but if I'm using it for aligning a domino and I've got material traveling under the fence, still using a multifunction table of some sort, that's where that comes into play. Now the fence can either be upright, and they suggest that you have it upright for using it with a tracksaw. It can be extended. That doesn't come as a standard. You have to buy another fence, and there's two accessories that you can get for it that slide into the T-track. Now here's a quick thing. The T-track has two different sizes on the vertical side. The bottom takes things like the GRC 12. This is your track joiner. And you could use that if you wanted to, if you've got a spare one lying around. Or TSO sell a shorter one that's only about that long and a smaller width and thickness one that goes in the top T-track. Now you're probably saying, well, why are there two different sizes? Well, the other one takes T-nuts for this accessory here. This helps you lock that fence onto either TSO's large triangle, which is this guy down here, that fellow. But a lot of people don't want that one. They like this little guy, which is the MTR X triangle. And it locks on. As I say, this is an accessory. This is something different to the fence set. And those T-nuts lock into that top section. So that's why you've got two different sizes there. Okay, now the other thing with the fence is on one side, it is metric and imperial. So imperial at the top, metric at the bottom. And I did mention before, it starts at 200 millimeters. Now that's the first part we're going to move on to, is how to calibrate this to work perfectly. Now you're probably streets ahead of me already. So I'll put the underbench mount, while I've got it here in my hand, this side is for when you're using the fence vertical. If you flip the fence over flat horizontal, then hey presto, that's the right width from the dog there. Pretty clever. These guys are switched on. So it will go here, like so. I've got a couple of dogs in my bench already. I will loosen off these guys here and put them in the row back, like so. Move the stop out of the way for the moment. Now, the easiest way to calibrate this is to use a combination square, and you set it to 200 millimeters. There you go. 200 millimeters from here to the end of the combination square. I get my track. It doesn't matter what track saw you've got. This will work with 99% of track saws, this fence. Why? Because TSO have made their fence stop at 200. The track is around 185, 187, something like that wide. Festools, Tritons and Makitas. But there might be other tracks that you want to use this with. And they're allowing, I think even the DeWalt track will work with this fence. So I will move that out of the way, slide this on there, that down to there, using the Stanton dog locks, because it holds the track or the guide rail wherever I want it to. Important, you put my dog locks in between the dogs. You don't put them both on one side and push it up. It's not going to work. This is the best way to do it. 200 millimeters, I will slide that under there, and then I will bring this up until it touches. That's it. I'm on the splinter guard here, which is where my track saw is cut to. So that's calibrated that. I'll feel around over here, tighten this up. Not like Samson, I'll just tighten it up a bit so it's not going anywhere. Perfect. You're probably all thinking, well, that's great, Dave. How does it work though? I'll show you. I'll move this flip stop up like so. It swings over perfectly. I'm going to put a piece of wood under here that is 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm going to dock the end off first. So it just comes past, because I want it off nice and clean. Push it down, the dog locks, get my track saw and cut. All I'm doing is docking in end. Done. All right, now I'm going to flip it over, and I want it to be, let's say I want something 1105 millimeters. I'm going to flip the board over. I'm going to set this to 1105. So I'll loosen that off. I'll take it to there, which is right on 1105. Slide it up to the stop. All done. Slide that in there, and this one. $11.05, perfect. What I'm doing now is I'm setting the fence up with the stock support bracket out the end there. I'll just bring it into view for you so you can see it. Now I'm going to put this guy here, that one there. The combination square set to 200 millimeters. And it's pretty important to get it accurate. If you wanted to, you could cut a block 200 millimeters and always just set it there, put the block beside it, slide the body of the combination square down and lock it. It's easier than using a block underneath here because you have this lip that's pushing against your splinter guard. So there, push it back to where it lives, which is there. That's it. Nip this up tight. Now, if I have this like that now, I really do want to use speed knobs under here to stop this lifting if there's any weight bearing down on the end there. So I'll come around and do that. It's picking the whole bench up, it's not going anywhere. This is a piece of 1/4 inch ply, and I will slide it under there. And you can see it's sitting on that. That's, the whole thing is a demonstration. Let's say I've got something that's really flexible and I don't want it bending around, or if I've got an extension on my fence out further, nearly 2 meters away from the track, well then skinny stuff like this can be flexible, and you're going to end up loving that support. I'll bring it along to there. Now this is only 6 millimeters, so I've got to set my track saw up to 7 millimeters there. So I'm going 1 millimeter through, so I'm not going to cut my bench in half, which would be a tragedy. Let's have a look. Okay. Notice also that we're not colliding. Even with the battery saw, which has got the batteries hanging out way past, they're not colliding with the fence if you set your saw up correctly for the correct depth of plunge. So I set up for 7 millimeters there. If I had it down to maybe full 50 millimeters, cutting off the end, 6 mil, yeah, the batteries would have collided with that. So that's a little heads up. There we go. Thanks for watching. If you like what I'm doing, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I shall see you next time. Bye.